Tick tock, tick tock. Obadoo. Hello, welcome back. And thank you for coming. You can hear some snuffling. That's because the dog is wandering around the drum room. He's a bit of an idiot. Obadoo! No, he's gone. So, as you can tell by the like count on the last video, off the hook. But yeah, so so not a lot's changed. I am now a week and a half, pretty much, post-op. 2 weeks and a half post-op, and I have got relatively no pain, which is good. It's really, really, really good, and I'm quite happy with that. I am still in this fucking sling, which is doing my nut in, and subsequently I am getting a rash all over my back and armpit. I think it's from the sling, potentially. So I'm now covering myself in E45 anti-itch cream, and it's doing my nut in. I keep waking up every night, and it's worse than the pain was, I've got to be honest. Yeah. Not brilliant in any way, shape or form. Weather's not been so good, so I've not been out much. Although I went to the hospital I had my operation in. It was that Thursday, and I said hello to some people, some friends who I work with, which was nice, and went into town. So took a stroll into Bath and had a nice wander around Bath. It was lovely. Had a coffee and went to a couple of different coffee shops, which I like, and then decided I'd walk from Bath back to Box, which is about 6 miles, I reckon, something like that. Took me a while, but it was good. It was nice and beautiful weather. Really nice being outside. I went down from the centre of Bath. I'll put some pictures up, but I went through from the centre of Bath, and then I basically headed out down Milsom Street. Not Milsom Street, no, let's try that again. Headed out down Great Portney Street, which is my favourite street in Bath. Hello, dog. Very noisy. You what? Anyway, so I went down Great Portney Street, past the Holborn, onto the canal, along the canal, and then I cut from the canal across to Bath Ford, and then I cut across diagonally through, avoiding major roads, to Box, and it was just lovely. I saw a couple of deer. It was just really nice, very picturesque. So all of this will have been covered with pictures, I'm sure. So very pleasant, and I rather enjoyed it. It was good, and it's interesting because now I say that, I realise that there are other things in this world that I should be mildly grateful for, because like yesterday and today has been pretty. I've been sullen and pretty miserable. So. And I think starting the video with, and I'm still in this fucking sling, which is not helpful, I don't think. As we know, I'm missing my cognitive well-being sort of activities. So, yeah, but it is what it is, and it's I don't know. I watch different podcasts. I've completed YouTube now. So Remy Metalier, fantastic rider, lots of Squamish, BC, sort of Canadian videos. Oh, it's so good. I want to go and live in Canada. I've also discovered the HKT podcast. I think it is. It's basically there's a guy called Davey and another guy called Ollie, who are both mountain bikers. But it's really interesting. I mean, I think Davey's had an off about 2 weeks ago, and he had a pretty bad off, and he's broken loads of ribs and things like this. I kind of watched. I don't know. It's like watching. He did a post last night, which I watched this morning about it, and he is. I mean, the boy's in a bad place. He's. I don't know whether any of you have ever broken ribs or not, but it's an unpleasant experience. And he's not done just 1 or 2 ribs; he's done multiple ribs, and he's had a punctured lung, I think. And if it hasn't been punctured, it definitely got bruised enough to fill with blood and fluid. So he's not had a good time, and he's on a fuckload of opiate type drugs to keep himself on the straight and narrow. So he's in a bit of a bad place, that lad, and he's like I watched this video this morning, and he's like, I did this video. It's a bit dull, and it's probably not very interesting. But it's just like, man, that sucks. That's kind of where I am as well. But I don't have the pain, and I can laugh. I can sneeze and I can cough without thinking I'm going to die, and that is a strong bonus. So I hope he heals quickly. I hope he gets back to riding and everything. But yeah, he seems like a nice lad. Ollie Wilkins is always funny. So yeah, I'll try and put a link to it below. So I think it's called the HKT podcast, but it's like a riding. I think they call it a riding companion podcast. But it's definitely worth a watch or a listen if you find it. It's really nice. I find them. Yeah, I don't know. It is mountain biking, so I guess you've got to have like a love for mountain biking. But they are, a pair of them are quite likeable characters. It's quite nice to listen to. So yeah, which is good. So, well, that's about it really. I got Will in yesterday to help me. I've realised Will is big enough to play my drum kits now. So we built a new drum kit. That was an old drum kit, but we set it up in a new way. I'll put a picture up. And it looks spectacular, but it's also deeply frustrating because I can't play it. So I just have to hope Will plays it and enjoys it. So yeah, but it is what it is. But I'm going to pack his drum kit down that he's been using, and I'm going to look at selling that. Recoup some of the cost, I think. But yeah, don't like selling instruments, but sometimes when you need the money and it'll just sit there dormant, not doing anything, and that seems sad. So yeah, but I don't know. Anyway, one other thing I was asked if I'd talk about. Lovely friend Douglas, Chug-a-lug, Doug-a-lug. He said, have you explained to people where Morton Frankfire came from? Which is, I don't know whether any of you picked up on this or not, but it's going to be about 8 years ago, I developed a nickname which I created for myself. So basically, I left working for the NHS and I joined a big multinational medical device company, who shall remain nameless in this. But yeah, so I ended up working for them, and it was interesting because it was a completely different change of life and pace. And it was odd because it wasn't a sales job, but it was essentially selling. I was classed as clinical, but I did just support. So I think I spoke about in the last, maybe the first video, I talked about how I used to go to Reading. That's how I came across coffee. Anyway, so you have a lot of training, and part of it is they do sales training for you, and they do this sales course called Integrity Sales. Now, I can tell you now, there is no integrity in integrity sales. It's never sat well with me being a salesperson, and which is why I'm back doing clinical stuff now. But I definitely didn't enjoy doing sales courses, and I don't like the way they did. So basically, there's this guy who teaches you, and he uses me as an example. So he sits down and he's talking. So they all talk about how when you go into the surgeon's office, you sit there and you look at whether they're driven by achievement or whether they're a family person. You know, what things are they into? They're like sports. Those sorts of things. Anyway, so this guy sits down and he tries to use me as a way to demonstrate how you garner a relationship and you become friendly with these people. And he basically sat there and he'd obviously researched me. He'd researched me off the internet. He found loads of stuff out about me. He was asking me loads of questions. And I found it really uncomfortable. It didn't work for me, and I thought it was just awful. So, long story short, I went home and I Googled myself. And I don't know whether you've ever done this, whether you've ever put your name in. I think Dave Gorman did it, where he went around the world and found all the other Dave Gormans. But I went home, I Googled myself, I worked out what was going on, worked out where I was, and just by my name you could find all these different things about me. And that's fine, but I didn't want work following me, and I didn't want work tracking what I did, because I play music, I like to do a gig, I like to play with my top off and be a bit of a twat. I like to have fun. I don't particularly want work to follow me. I'd rather have work as a separate entity sometimes. What are you up to, dog? So, yeah, so I went home and I looked at it and I thought I'd change my name. So I looked at it and I deleted it on Facebook and I started rewriting it, and I put M and F. They were the two criteria. And as I started writing, I ended up with Morton Frankfire. So Morton Frankfire was created. I got a lot of random comments, and some people unfriended me because they didn't know who the hell I was, which was fair enough, you know, but that's kind of how it is. And since then, I've found a load of people I've become friends with who only know me as Morton Frankfire because I've met them through music and through... You're being very noisy, dog. That's all right. Go on, off you go. He doesn't give a shit. He really doesn't give a shit. So yeah, I've only met them through the internet essentially, and then I've started working with them as musicians or become friends with them and things like this. And they all know me as Mort or Morton. So it becomes quite a surprise when people realise you're called Martin. So yeah, so I've ended up being called Morton Frankfire through a little deviation in my career path, and I have ended up with lots of friends who only know me as Mort, which is, and it's weird because I refer to myself sometimes, like if I write things down, I think I've even called my YouTube channel Morton Frankfire, but if I write, I'll talk about myself as Mart or Martin, but I often write myself down as Morton, which is, I don't know, I feel like maybe there's a psychic evaluation in this somewhere. I'd have good coffee. Yeah, I'd have a field over me, I think. So yeah. So anyway, so it's important, I think. Past that was like a little deviation, wasn't it? So it's important, I think, past all of these things, even though I am grumpy and down, and I'm in a bad mood, that I have to be thankful. I don't have any broken ribs, and I can sneeze and laugh. I have got a family, and life isn't as bad as I perceive it is sometimes, and I should be grateful and thankful. And it is hard to be grateful and thankful at times, but you do have to remember that you should be. So yeah, so there you go, a deep and meaningful podcast this time with a witty anecdote. Some would say witty, some would say dull, I don't know, you decide. But yeah, so that's about it really. It's a bit late this one, it's a couple of days over from Thursday, but you know, I didn't even set out a date, I just did it on a Thursday. So anyway, we'll leave it where it is. Thank you for joining me again for this Martin's Descent into Madness, or Morton's Descent into Madness. I don't know which way you want to call me now. You can call me whatever you like, I don't care. And I shall see you in a few days. Cheers, take care.